We are back with another episode of Get the Guac, a Hartford retirement podcast. And I'm excited about this one. We're joined with two professionals that work at Glen Meadows, a senior living retirement community. We have Gretchen and we have Margaret from Glen Meadows. Thank you for coming into the podcast studio.
Thank you for having us here.
All right. So, Margaret, can you give us a little bit of your background, what you do at Glen Meadows?
Good morning, or whatever time is. I'm Margaret, and I'm the sales director for Glen Meadows.
Okay.
I have been with the community for about a year now. So my background before this, prior, has always been in the selling role.
Okay.
I was in the hotel industry for 12 years prior to this, and then dipped my toes a little bit in real estate, and then landed at Glen Meadows, which really is my, I would say, dream job, because I've always wanted to shift in this industry. And then COVID kind of like forced me to get out of my comfort zone and find this opportunity. And it's been heaven since I've landed this role. So I'm very happy to be with Glen Meadows.
Excellent. I want to talk in a little bit about the transition from hotel to a retirement community. Yeah. And Gretchen, what is your role with Glen Meadows?
So I'm the director of community life. I like to say I'm the life of the community.
Right.
It really is.
Oh, that's excellent.
My background is actually in skilled nursing, but I transitioned right at COVID to the retirement community. So it was a new adventure for me to work with independent and assisted living residents.
So where were you before Glen Meadows?
I was at a long-term care nursing home.
Okay.
That's my career for the past 24 years.
So nursing, I guess, aging
Rehab.
population.
Yeah, rehab and long-term nursing.
Right. Excellent. So Glen Meadows, so you're both roughly a year or less than 5 years with the community, right?
Yes.
So it's so tough because you hear different terms: assisted living, nursing home. You know, what's the right term, or what are the differences between some of those?
Do you want? I'll answer that. So
Sure.
Politically correct.
Yes. So
Right.
you're probably more familiar with the term continuing care retirement community.
Right.
I would probably brand ourselves as more of a life plan community. In a sense, because we offer a more overall comprehensive life plan service or life plan care for our elderly, with the range of housing and care options that we offer. So it all encompasses, independent living, assisted living, and skilled care, long-term care. As of 2022, PSL have decided to change the terminology from CCRC to Life Plan Community, because we felt as an organization that it better describes a better description for aspirational aging, which a lot of our older people would want to have at the end of the day.
Aspirational aging. That's a great.
aging.
So I love that phrase. How would you describe aspirational aging?
Living your best life.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Getting the guac.
Getting
Yes.
the guac.
Getting
And we
your
did
guac.
talk about the guac story
Yes.
before.
Yes.
Why is a financial planning podcast called Get the Guac, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
So you'll hear us talk about independent living,
Right.
assisted living, and then healthcare.
Okay.
And that's kind of the life plan that we encompass.
Yes.
And we felt like, as a community, we felt that Life Plan Community is a more accurate description on how our residents live in all the community. It's all about living your life to the fullest,
Right.
knowing that you have planned well for the future.
So what are the differences from working in the hotel world to
Oh my
a
goodness.
retirement community?
It's like night and day, but the core element of, the selling skill is a big factor of it. But
Right.
I feel like when I was in the hotel industry, it's more like corporate setting.
Right.
You're selling your space, you're selling guest rooms, you're speaking with corporate people, association people.
Right.
This is more with working with a lot of like senior people. It's more of like a journey for them. So it's very fulfilling in a sense that you would help them find that, the perfect home for them. And it's a very emotional journey. So you are not really there to sell them anything. You're there to guide them and be a resource for them. And every hug that I get when I move somebody in,
Right.
it's just a totally different feeling. And I felt like when I was in the other industry, that's kind of like the one thing that I was yearning for. Like there's that different sense of
connection.
fulfillment. connection. It's all about an emotional journey, and making sure that you've done all your best to make sure that that person gets to live the life that they want to live. And this
Right.
is like the last best journey of their life, and you would want to hold their hands through that journey.
Yeah, what a noble cause.
Yeah, it's overwhelming for them, and
Yes.
so to have somebody there to say, this is our
A lot
plan.
of tears, a lot of happiness, but it's all worth it.
Right. Well,
Yes.
change is hard for people.
It is.
And I think accepting the aging process is also difficult. So if you combine, that realization that no one's getting any younger and there's a major change in what they're used to as far as living, things like that, I'm sure that could be difficult. So Glen Meadows, can we go a little bit through the history and maybe background? So what was Glen Meadows originally, and when did it kind of transition to retirement community?
Yeah,
Answer
so
that, Gretchen?
Glen Meadows has a long history back in the day, but I'm not going to go into too much detail because the 1800s are way back when.
Right.
But initially, it was a place for Sisters of Notre Dame
Okay.
to come and spend the summers. It eventually became a place where the nuns who were sick
Okay.
lived.
Yeah.
And then the nuns who were healthy would take care of them. They would man the gardens, the cows, the milk, whatever products they needed for the schools in the local area.
And when did it transition to what it is now?
So in 1984,
Okay.
there was a group of physicians that bought the land from the nuns.
Okay.
They moved out and a retirement community was formed.
Yes.
And then this year we're celebrating our 39th anniversary as PSL Glen Meadows.
Okay. So next year is going to be the big 40th.
Yes.
What's planned for that? Big party?
We haven't thought that far out yet, but
I'm
sure
trying to
it
get
will
through
be.
Thanksgiving.
Okay. There will be something.
Yes.
Stay tuned. Right?
It's
You've got plenty of
always a
time.
big thing.
Always,
Yeah,
yes.
anniversary is like probably one of our more, I would say, highlighted events every year. So we're gonna go big.
Yeah, 40.
Yes.
The dietary manager and I have already mentioned some things, but we know it's big.
Yeah.
We just don't know what.
Oh, that's awesome. So, I think there's a lot of misconception or unknown, maybe a better way to put it, for folks that are considering. So let's start with ages. What in your experiences is a good age to start exploring the option of a community like this?
I think the sooner the better.
Yeah, as early as possible. So we do have a minimum age requirement of 60
Okay.
in our community to be able to get into Glen Meadows. But I would say based on, talking to people, they've already done the research way like 5-10 years before.
Okay.
The more information that you could get, the better.
Right.
But it's also about finding the balance that you don't want to overthink it. Because
Right.
sometimes they get that, that information, but they get that point and they're just like thinking, but not really making that move.
Right.
And that's kind of like finding the balance. You would want to move into a community where you're still strong and able to thrive and live as independent living.
Right.
But at the same time, you don't want to wait when it's still, it's not your choice anymore. So it's always
Yeah.
going to be an education that you have to have that conversation with your people that, hey, yes, it's good to have that this to plan, but don't wait too long to the point that you can't enjoy what it is being an independent living resident.
Right. I think what I've seen a lot with clients is maybe aging parents, and they wait until dementia is kicking in, and it's difficult to
It
find
is.
places. And so let's talk about how Glen Meadows works. Let's say I'm 65 and I come in, and I don't know anything about how these communities work. This is the first conversation I've had about it.
You're going to meet with Margaret and find out.
And Margaret, what am I going to learn in that meeting about the different options or how it works?
So first of all, I think we would need to confirm first, or like find out like why are you looking? What kind of like prompted you to start having this conversation, start looking at it?
Let's say my kids keep bugging me, so I'm here to appease them.
Right. So it's more of, it's just not, the purpose is not just for, to silence your kids in any way, but also the concern factor is there. The kids know that when they look at mom, eventually down the road they would need help more than what they're having right now.
Right.
So there is always something that triggered that search.
Right.
And you have to like go into deep dive to find that out, because it's, you tell them, I'm just looking, but if you have a conversation with them, there is a reason behind why they are looking. And
So
from there, you
what are
start
some
that
of the common
conversation.
reasons that, because no one really just wakes up one day and
No.
says, you know what, this is in my best interest, I'm going to do this. Usually it's because of something, and then people are scrambling afterwards. But
Right.
what are some of the common
So
reasons
for
you
the
say?
ones that are more proactive, it's because eventually they would want to go into that, that road. But for some people, it's because something triggered. It's like, like somebody fell, it had a situation, then they felt like, oh, I probably should not be staying in my home because, I'm going up and down flight of stairs and things
Right.
could happen. So those are the things that kind of trigger those conversations.
Right.
But even with talking to residents or incoming residents or their family, we all share the common goal that we want our loved one to be in a safe space.
Right.
And Glen Meadows offers that safe space. Whether you're coming as an independent living resident, assisted living, we want you to be in a safe space where you're going to be happy down the road.
So what are the levels of care or residency? So it starts with independent living.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe that a little bit, and then what the other paths are?
Do you want to answer that? You want to answer that?
I can answer.
Sure.
I'm independent living is you and me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They have their own apartment.
Mhm.
They come and go as they please. They
So you say apartment, what are the different options? There's different floor plans, 1 bedroom,
Mhm.
2 bedroom, multiple full
The-
kitchen.
The thing about Glen Meadows, and Margaret can tell you, is it's very unlikely that there's 2 apartments that are the same.
Okay.
We have built our apartments from that convent,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and we use some of the same structures, and when we pulled back the layers, we found brick
Yes.
or stone. And
Right.
so a lot of the apartments have that original
Every
building.
apartment is unique and different in its own way. So yes,
Sure.
we do have like model layouts, but I always tell them you have to come in and see what that apartment looks like because it's not the same as the layout. So that's kind of like one option for independent living. Another option is we have the patty homes or the cottages, which is outside the main building. So for probably I would say younger people or younger elderly that would want more space or
Right.
up to be up close in nature, that's probably something that they would be leaning towards soon. So what's great about Glen Meadows is we could meet all those needs. So there's something for somebody.
So cottages, is that separate from apartments?
Yes.
Is that standalone like single homes, or are they like cluster homes?
They're
what does it look
clustered
like?
homes. They have, walk out balcony or porch or things like that.
Right.
It's like a little neighborhood in a sense.
Sure.
And I think because we are in such a great location, and Gretchen, you could go into this more. It's just a different. We're not. I would say we're not a cookie cutter.
Right.
Continuing care retirement community. It's just a different world out there in Glen Meadows
So you could get for independent living, you get a cottage
or an apartment.
or an apartment.
Mhm.
You have your car,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So parking, you can come and go as you please.
Yep, we'll valet it if you need it to.
Valet too. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. That's
Mhm.
interesting. So truly, you is it fair to say that it gets your kind of foot in the door with the organization? Let's say progress a few years, and all of a sudden, maybe dementia starts to rear its ugly head, and there's more care that's needed. What does it look like when there's more needs for a resident?
So we actually have home health care that can come into your independent living apartment or
So I've got my
cottage.
apartment. I need somebody to come by.
A couple times a day. They can come in, provide those services for you, and then you can age in place
Age in place.
in your apartment.
I think that's everyone's goal,
Correct.
Yeah.
right?
And you don't necessarily have to go to assisted living right away. There are steps in place that can happen for you that we can offer that you don't necessarily have to go to assisted living right away. Like, what Gretchen said, age in place. As long as you are safe where you are right now,
Right.
we will help you in that process of, higher level of care.
If I'm a resident and I have my own healthcare provider that I want to come in, is there any restrictions on that? If you have if I have my own in-home care nurse that I want to come,
No, you can work with your own caregiver if you want to.
Okay.
We do have a company that we'll work with that's on site Glen Meadows.
Right.
It's just more convenience because these people have been with Glen Meadows for such a long time, so they know the community inside and out.
Right. So if you have nobody that
Yes.
you know to help you,
Absolutely.
We'll help you.
Yes.
You know us.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We are very flexible. We're not, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's not our style.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So independent living, and then is the next progression assisted living?
Everybody's journey is unique. You
Right.
had mentioned if they get dementia. Well, what's going to be the most appropriate for dementia? But somebody who might fall and break a hip, they
Right.
might need rehab and go to the healthcare center for an extended stay.
Which is on property.
Yes.
Correct.
And so we have the assisted living where there is staff there after hours, nursing staff. If you need them, they'll help every once in a while. And then the nursing part of it, the healthcare part of it is the long term. We have rehab who will come in and give you whatever services, PTOT, speech, that you would need. And you can even go back to your independent living apartment if that's the most appropriate place for you.
Right.
We have had residents who were in assisted living, they go to healthcare, they're there for a little while, they do better,
Right.
and now they need to go back to health or assisted living.
Right.
So it's kind of nice that they're still on campus, they're just moving wherever is most appropriate.
Correct.
Yep. I think the big fear with a lot of folks is, what if the money runs out? Do I get kicked out when you're usually probably...
You got too much guac.
Yeah, too much guac, right? We don't have that balance. Do you want to talk about that? And I'm sure each facility is different, but what's Glen Meadows? How does that work if resources start to become limited?
So we are a non-for-profit faith-based community, and what basically that means for you is, at the end of the day, our first and foremost priority is always going to be our residents. Part of our mission is we do offer a benevolent fund, and how it translates to our residents is if it comes to the point that you outlive your resources, you don't necessarily have to move on or move out of the community.
Okay.
So as long as the requirements are met, we would never ask you to leave. In fact, PSL has been around for 90 years, and we've never ever had to ask anybody to leave just because they ran out of money.
Okay. That's a huge concern,
It
at
is.
least with the people that we work
Absolutely,
with, because we're
absolutely.
planning the finances.
You
And
want
it's
it to-
expensive.
You want your money to go the longevity of your life.
Right.
And that is one wonderful thing about Glen Meadows is, we will work with what you got.
So on the front end, how does it work? Let's say I'm interested in an apartment. I find the one that I like.
You find the one that's calling your name.
Is there, I know one of the hesitancies of these communities is my money gone, right? Are there different options for, say, deposits? And can you talk a little bit about how that works?
Definitely. So if you actually, if as long as you go into Glen Meadows at an appropriate age, when you actually compare it on the longer run, staying at Glen Meadows is less expensive than living on your own.
Yes.
So Glen Meadows is a type C community. So that means we do have a buy-in component.
Okay.
So under that buy-in umbrella, you do have 3 kind of refund options. So anywhere from 50%, 75% to 100%. And that
Comes
way,
back.
Yes, correct. So whatever buy-in you put in there,
Right.
once a resident pass away or move out of the community, and we're able to resell that unit, you'll be able to get that money. That money gets refunded back to the beneficiary, which is really great.
So the apartments, in a way, are kind of like buying a condo, put very simply,
it's
and
like
not...
investment. So whatever investment you put in there, it actually goes back to improving the community. So in a way, you really are investing on yourself.
Does it, I would assume, cost more for the 100%
Yes.
refund of your deposit, less
Correct.
for 75 and less for...
Correct.
Ballpark, what are some of those figures? Let's say a 2-bedroom apartment.
2-bedroom apartment, I would say a little over 100,000. And then, but really, what's so great about Glen Meadows is you can come in as low as $27,000 for a buy-in deposit, which is really unheard of.
What does $27,000?
It's like a studio. It's a studio apartment for
Okay.
a 50% refund.
Sure.
You
And a
have
50%,
lot,
so 27,000 up front, studio apartment.
Correct.
And 50% of that goes to your beneficiaries.
Correct.
At the end
Correct.
of the day. Okay.
But there are a lot of variety of apartments and patio homes that you can choose from. So you just find out, what your preference is, what you're going to be financially eligible for.
And let's say that I want the Cadillac of cluster home apartment. What's the very top end?
For a 50% refund,
Let's say 100% refund.
I would say we're looking at closer to 600, 800,000.
Okay, so anywhere between 27,000 to 800,000
Yeah.
gets you in.
Correct.
And once you're in, you're good.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
How do people typically fund these deposits in your experience?
Based on our experience, normally the buy-in deposit is covered by either their current assets or the sale of their home.
Right.
And then the monthly fees would be coming from their monthly income, whether it's like Social Security or pension or annuity or things like that.
Right. Let's switch gears and talk about something more fun. So you're kind of like the cruise director.
Sure, well, I'll be the Julie McCoy.
Is that a fair? So let's talk about some of the activities. We want to get the guac. We want to enjoy all phases of our life, but especially as we get towards, this phase of life. What are some of the activities? What can residents expect life to look like?
Whatever they want to do.
Right.
We have a variety of leisure interests. They come to me and they say, hey, Gretchen, I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, maybe some other people might want to do this too. So we put it out there, we do it, and they enjoy it or they don't.
Right.
So we have...
What are some of the more popular activities?
Of course, your standard bingo.
Bingo's big.
Happy hour, of course.
Happy hour?
Yes. And
movie night, I would say. Movie night is also big.
movie. They do enjoy some homemade popcorn from, that tastes like the movie theater.
Oh, very cool.
And we get the new movies, so they.
What was
can
the
see
last
them.
movie that you played?
Is it Barbie?
Barbie.
Barbie's a good movie, surprisingly.
Barbie, yes.
It's all about woman empowerment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was. They enjoyed it. It was a good message. They thought it was great.
What's the population gender-wise? Is it mostly women? What's the percentage breakdown if you had to guess?
If we had to guess, 75-25.
That would be a fair.
75-25.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're a guy over 60 and you're looking for a companion,
you might find one.
You might find one.
Your numbers are good.
Yeah.
Do people get in relationships? Have romances that have?
Sure.
It has happened.
I mean, we're social beings.
Sure.
You don't lose that just because you're over 60.
Oh, of course. Well, everybody wants companionship.
Yeah.
And
whether it's a friend who's of the opposite gender or, somebody not.
Do you have any breakups that you have to say, okay, Mr. and Mrs., Mr. Smith and Mrs.
She would know
Johnson
this better than I do.
I mean, no divorces that I know of.
No divorces.
No divorces. But
any jealousy, Mr. Smith?
I haven't seen any.
Okay. That would be a good reality show.
Yeah,
I would imagine
would.
there's a lot of...
Well, there could
That's
be.
actually a good idea.
Yeah.
I would watch that. That'd be
They
great.
probably have more social life than they do anyway, so.
Yeah. Well, now they have what? The Bachelor Silver?
What is that? I saw it. What is it called?
Golden
Bachelor.
Golden Bachelor.
Golden Bachelor.
Yeah. So I don't. Maybe this would be silver.
But we also have husbands and wives that are there as well. They can be together.
Yes.
Correct.
So, they might have a special friend that they, look after, but they're still married.
Right. So what are the off-campus activities? There's a bus. Tell us a little bit about
We've
that.
got a couple different size buses. The residents choose where they want to go.
Yeah.
And I just help plan and direct. They've gone to Lancaster for Sight and Sound theaters.
Okay.
They're going to the American Music Theater next month. They're going down to Baltimore for a holiday brass concert.
Okay.
They love to go to Friendly Farms.
Yes.
And out to eat. They have gone, I'm just trying to think, to the casino.
Farms?
Yeah, the casino Arundel Mills.
Yeah.
They love their ice cream. So we have some ice cream trips, and then just shopping.
There's a crab feast too, right?
There is
Once
a
year?
crab feast once a year. We
Yeah.
invite families and staff to come and join in on
It's always well
the
attended.
picking.
too.
Yeah.
The picking.
The picking.
Yeah. So
So one of the questions, I guess, life at Glen Meadows, food. Are there, let's say you don't feel like cooking anymore. What are the different options? Are there meal plans? What does that look like?
Part of the monthly fees that you're paying for, you do actually have an allowance incorporated in that.
Okay.
Each resident gets $360 that they could spend towards any of our dining option.
Right.
All the apartments, all the patio homes also have a full kitchen. So if they want to mix it up a little bit, sometimes a lot of our residents would probably just have breakfast or lunch in their home, and then they would go out. They would go to the cafeteria or to the restaurant for their dinner, and that's doable. It's all a la carte, so they just have to find a way to manage it however they want to.
Right.
Another option too is if they don't want to be part of that, then they can opt out of that amenity and they can just get us credit back to their monthly fees.
Right.
So we're not forcing you to have your meals at Glen Meadows. There are options available as well.
If you want to, you can, but
Yes.
nobody's
You can cook.
required to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
and if you're cooking, you better invite us
Yes. Make extra.
Yes.
and tell us what time to come over.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Mhm.
So you mentioned, Margaret, that it's a nonprofit.
Mhm.
Why is that important to know when looking at different options in this space?
It's always good to have that, it's a good conversation. It's also a good question as well too. So what makes us different? Because we're very proud to be a nonprofit, faith-based community. And
Right.
what basically that means is, as I've told you earlier, is at the end of the day, we always put our people first before our profits.
Right.
A lot of for-profit community, and it's not a bad thing, but a lot of for-profit communities, they have the dual responsibility of taking care of their residents. At the same time, they have to satisfy their investors.
Right.
On our end, we can just focus on how we can service our people. And
Yes.
at the end of the day, that's really what you want to do. Everything that we do, all our decision is all for our residents.
Right.
And since I've been there, we've upgraded and we've been allocated some funds that we can purchase some special equipment for the residents and the staff.
Okay.
So we've created a serenity space with an ergonomical massage chair.
Oh, okay.
We have but we have invested in a horticulture program that's therapeutic for our residents in our healthcare center. So we're giving back to Glen Meadows
Right.
when we do have that extra
Correct.
profit, so to speak.
Right. What's left over goes right into the community.
Right.
And yeah, I think that's an important. This is a good question. Not one. So we just got rid of our one pet. We had a fish. It lasted. Well, it's still alive. We took it to preschool.
You took it to preschool.
We took it to my daughter's preschool because we're just not pet people. But
Okay.
we're in the minority. A lot of people are pet people.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So can you bring pets to your apartment or wherever you decide to live at Glen Meadows?
Yes, you can. We are a very pet-friendly community.
Yes.
We do allow up to 2 pets per home.
Okay.
And because we're out in nature, we have a big dog park. We have like 6 walking trails.
Oh, wow.
So anybody that's have a pet would really enjoy being out there.
Yes.
So you're not just confined in like one condominium or apartment and that's it.
Right.
We have a stocked fish pond too.
Correct.
So if the preschool wants to get rid of the fish, we can just put it in our pond.
Okay.
The residents are creating a Pets of Glen Meadow book
Oh,
right
wow.
now. So our resident photographer is taking pictures of all the pets, and then they're going to correlate it and put it together as a book.
And you're always extra famous too if you have pets of your own. People
Yeah.
just tend to gravitate to you like, oh, your dog is so cute. It's
Right.
a great way to meet other people.
You don't
Yeah.
necessarily see as many cats out in the community
They're
because
there,
not too
yeah.
many people walk them on leashes, but we do have a variety of residents who have cats in their homes.
Yes.
It's
Right.
nice.
Absolutely.
It's nice when you go visit, the cat comes up,
Right.
especially if you're a cat person like me.
If they're nice cats. We had a mean cat growing up.
Well,
It would just attack my ankles, just jump out of the middle of nowhere.
I don't know what I have to say about that.
I don't
think
know.
It was
Well, we
your
thought it was a
ankles.
female cat for like a year or two, and then we went, and the vet was like,
It's a boy.
it's not. So anyway, maybe there was some angst that related to that. So as a financial advisor, obviously we're incorporating all the costs and things like that. So we talked a little bit about the deposit. You get to choose if you get some, more, or all of it back.
Yes.
So let's go through a typical, well, nothing's typical, but let's go through like an average. So I pick for $400,000 or $500,000. Does that get me a 2-bedroom apartment?
Yeah.
And some of it back, a nice one.
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
A nicer. I mean, they're all nice. I'm
They're
sure.
all nice.
And
we
then
remodel it to make it
Yes.
whatever your preference is. If you
Right.
want
So-
a blue wall, we'll paint
Yeah.
it blue.
and that's before you move in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of our, especially, different kinds like patio homes or apartments, once it's been relinquished back to us, we would go in as a team and just determining how do we want to change this unit.
Right.
Make it a little bit more functional, a bit more open, stuff like that. So the incoming resident actually have an option to make their own selection
Okay.
if the unit is not, it's going to be renovated anyway. So they can choose their own flooring, their own paint,
Oh,
their own
wow.
cabinets, stuff like that. And we also have units that are also, just recently renovated and looks really, really nice. I mean,
Right.
they come in like, oh my gosh, I mean, I was not expecting it.
Right.
So that's
I
always a
come
good
in like, oh my
experience.
gosh, I was
Yes.
not expecting that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. So if I'm moving in and, I loved my kitchen and the home that I raised my family and I want to recreate that, you can do that.
It's a case-to-case basis depending on, the patio home that we're looking at.
Right.
But
I'm sure beyond a certain, you have
Correct.
to pay for,
Correct.
more than just paint.
But it's always good to, because you're always going to be part of that process. So you're not just giving you something, okay, you move in, this is it.
You get what you get.
Correct.
You've got some
Correct. So
decisions.
for the most cases, we do the incoming resident will have an option to give, a selection or what their feedback is, and we will incorporate that as part of the design process as well too.
Yep.
Not a lot of committees can offer that as well too.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I sell my home. I put the proceeds into condo, fix it up, do the paint, maybe a couple, and then month to month, husband, wife, or a couple. What's independent living typically cost on a monthly basis?
Again, it all depends on what kind of home we ended up with. It's anywhere, I would say right now, a little under $2,000 all the way to $5,000.
Okay, so
Yes.
$2,000 to $5,000 a month.
It's all the same amenities. It just varies because of the home that you are in.
Right.
But the monthly fees that you're paying for covers the same amenities. So we're talking about food, housekeeping, linen service, maintenance, activities, and all of those. wonderful-
Electricity,
Correct. Yes.
The
yard
utilities,
work. Yeah.
Yes.
You don't have to mow the grass unless you want to.
Right.
You don't have to garden unless you want to. And then you do get all the fun of the community, the fitness activities, the social activities, the spiritual activities.
Right.
The trips off campus are sometimes paid for, sometimes, most of the times you pay for them.
I'm sure it's not very much if it's a bus trip.
I mean, it's like a ticket.
But
Yeah.
you can be as involved as you want to, or if you wake up one day, I don't feel like doing anything, you have that option. So
Right.
it's good to if you want to be involved and engaged, then there are a lot of things that you could get yourself involved with. But if on days that you do not want to, then we're not going to force you.
Right. Here's options. You
Correct.
choose what you want.
Correct.
Let's say that I have a parent who we've decided can't stay home and independent living isn't an option. What does it look like for someone whose health is slipping or has a condition that's presented itself and created challenges? Can we go direct to assisted living? And if so, how does that process work?
So we do have our own assisted living facility. what we would do first is obviously determine what level of care they would need. And that's going to be an assessment coming from the incoming resident's primary care physician and our nursing health administrator. From there, we kind of like do the same process, financial eligibility, but I think the most important is determine like what kind of help do you need,
Right.
because that would determine what that monthly fees would look like.
Right. What, and this is an unfortunate situation, but one that we see often, and siblings taking care of mom or dad, and then it just gets to a point where life is busy, kids have activity, they just can't do it, or the parents progress. Full-time care, what's the ballpark monthly cost if we need to transition
To
mom or
assisted
dad
living?
to assisted living and they need a pretty intensive level of care?
Level 1 is $8,000, about $8,000, and then level 3 is about $12,000.
So
And
level 3 would be
sharing.
24/7.
Be heavier care.
Yes.
Right.
You need more than just medication management. You need more than just reminders. You need more than just help getting dressed.
Right.
You need more care
Right.
for a level 3.
So $8,000 to $12,000 depending on the level of care that's required.
Right.
Okay.
And everything's included in that. There are no additional fees.
Correct.
You have all the programming, you have all the meals. We take
care.
excursions off campus.
How does that compare to some of the other facilities in the area? Is that
Well, I'm not
competitive?
exactly sure.
Right.
I'm not sure of other communities.
Some of the ones that we've researched with clients, it seems like that's on the more affordable side.
Okay.
From
Our Glen Meadows is more affordable.
yes, from what I've seen, but I'm not in the meetings with folks.
Yeah.
I just kind of hear secondhand.
Right.
I think I'm going to bring it to what makes also Glen Meadows a little bit different from the rest is
Sure.
the fact that we are a more intimate community.
Right.
I felt like even in either independent living, assisted living, or skilled nursing, I feel that our staff have a lot more, how do you call this, our pulse on what's happening with our residents.
Right.
The level
How
of
many
care
residents?
is more.
So we can have
Yeah.
41 in assisted living. We can have 31 in healthcare.
Right.
Independent living is
About 200.
about 200. But if you have
But it changes.
husbands and wives and
always.
It's a fluid number,
sisters and
right?
partners living
Yeah.
together, you could have more residents.
Yeah.
But we are a small community. We
Yes.
do focus on the resident and what's
Right.
going on with them frequently throughout the
Correct.
week.
Okay.
Even if you are out in your independent living resident, because again, we are a smaller community, when we interact with you, we would know if something is wrong with that person, if there's going to be a conversation that we need to have with either the resident, if they can still make that decision, or with their family members. So it's a continuous process. We
Right.
don't just, leave you alone and, you're on your own, you're independent.
Right.
And I think that's one of the benefits of being in a smaller community is we have more focus on our residents. As you get bigger, some of those personal touches gets lost in the process.
Right.
So,
It's like room number
correct. So you're not just
247
you're not
needs
just a
this.
number.
Not,
You're an actual person that
Yeah.
hey, we know you by name. Our staff know you by name, and even the staff as well too. I'm very proud of the fact that we really care about our residents. Our
Right.
executive director have an open door policy as well too. So anytime they want something or they want to ask something, they can just stop us and say, hey, can we talk? And that's
Right.
a very normal
huge.
conversation. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we're more family. We
It
know
is.
their grandkids' names. They
Yes.
know our children or our partners or spouses' names.
Absolutely.
Right.
They might even know our parents because we have community events where everybody comes.
Right.
And we're just one big family.
One big happy family.
Mm-hmm.
What are some, Gretchen, what is a story of interest or something funny, something notable? I'm sure you have tons of stories, but does one jump out?
This is where you sing or no?
I don't think this
We're
is
not
where
there yet.
we're not there yet, Margaret.
Yeah, that'll be later.
Well, one of our new residents, she said, this is great. She's been there about maybe 4 or 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, this is great.
Right.
I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean.
Right.
And I to plan my activities. I just got to show up.
Right.
And that to me is something I want in retirement. I don't want to do anything, but I want to be active and engaged in something. And if I don't want to, I can go in my apartment and shut the door.
Right. I've seen articles. I don't know of anyone personally that's done this, but retire on a cruise ship where they just keep going and going and going.
I've seen that.
Right. Yeah, so this is an alternative. If you get seasick and you just want to be on land, this is like a cruise on land, right?
In the country.
In the country.
Our location is, I think, one of our biggest attributes. We sit on just under 500 acres of land. Like we said, we have the dog park, the stocked fish pond, hiking trails. We have beautiful gardens that the residents help create.
Yes.
It's like a totally different road
in
Glen Meadows.
I used to drive past Glen Meadows twice a day when I was working in Towson.
Never saw it.
No, I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's a big, huge, beautiful building up on the hill.
Up on the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have all kinds of wildlife, deer, everything.
Yes. You definitely have to go slow down the driveway because there will be a deer coming out. But yeah, we're tucked away in Baltimore County, but yet you can get to Towson within
10-15 minutes.
10-15
minutes.
Yeah.
A traffic jam's probably a school bus.
Yeah.
Right?
That would be or a tree.
Or a tree.
Or a tree. Or a deer. But
other than that, it's pretty easy to get to and from.
Yeah.
Margaret, what do you have a story from a resident or something, a memory that sticks out that
it's really not just a specific memory. It's what I've told you earlier. It's when I'm able to move them into a home that they really, really love.
Right.
Just all that emotions coming in from me is what I remember the most, and what the residents remember the most is, we're able to do it. You've helped us. You've helped us realize what we wanted to, and you're part of that journey. So there's really nothing specific. It's all about going through that journey with them, which I really, really love.
What is the most common challenge for people as they're considering this option? What's the biggest roadblock to them moving forward with it?
Downsizing is definitely a big thing, especially if you've lived in that house for so many years and all those memories in that big home. You don't know where to start. So part of the service that we offer as well too is we connect them with professionals. That's what they do. They would look at your home. They would determine what we can sell, we can donate, what we need to dump, and that makes it a little bit faster for them. And they also have to realize that when they start this process, it doesn't have to fall all on their shoulders. There are people that people like us, people like you, different professionals that can help you in that journey. So Glen Meadows is just a small aspect of moving from point A to point B. There are people that can help you in the process, and you connect them with that people, and makes it a little bit more easier for them.
Right.
Yes.
And going back to what Margaret said earlier, they get to choose. We had a resident, she chose Glen Meadows, and she said, I chose Glen Meadows because I didn't want my family to tell me where to go.
Right.
I didn't want them to have to fight over my belongings.
Correct.
I got to choose what I wanted to bring with me. And she's been there about 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And it's perfect for her. She's halfway between both her kids. But yet she can be independent.
Yes. Folks that are getting older, I think that's the biggest challenge, is losing control over the decision making. And
correct.
There's a saying that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's a lot easier to make these decisions when you're of sound mind and you're able to move around and you can choose what you want to do rather than have somebody else choose for you, and that might not be what you would pick for yourself.
Right.
All right. That was excellent information. I think we got a lot of answers that people have questions to, and thank you so much for coming in. Where can we, if we're interested in learning more about Glen Meadows, how do we get in touch to learn more?
If they want to inquire about the whole process of looking into apartments and patio homes, you can definitely reach out to us. Just call Glen Meadows, ask for the sales office, and I work with another person, and we'll be more than happy to assist you.
And if you just want to come to happy hour,
yes.
It's every Friday at 4 o'clock.
Oh, sounds like a good time. All right.
And Gretchen will be there.
Perfect.
Yes.
Oh, Gretchen, Margaret, thank you so much for coming in and sharing this with us. This was fun.
That's a good time.
Thank you.